Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first ever SimNFL show. I am your host and commissioner, Piercewise. You can call me Pierce. And today we're going to introduce the third season of the Pro Sim over at simfba.com. If you're not familiar, come check us out on the site and on Discord. We would love to have you. So we are about to enter our third season of the Pro Sim, as we said. But before we go forward with the season, let's talk about an amazing offseason we had, in particular the draft. So first, thank you so much, Tuscan, for updating the interface, doing everything, all the drafting and all the scouting on the interface. I thought was excellent. I had a lot of fun doing it. I hope other people did as well. Amazing work, and also hosting the draft event, live streaming it. Just fantastic work all around. Thank you for everything you do for the Sim. Thank you, everyone on the broadcast team, everyone who showed up any of the 3 days and provided content and commentary. Really appreciate it. Again, fantastic job. And thank you to everyone who created content pre and post draft, doing mock drafts, doing the published draft guide. Thank you, Rocket and Alex, for putting all that together, publishing that. And for all of you who published draft grades, thank you for anyone who created any media around the event. Again, really helped to hype things up, and appreciate all that you do and all that you brought to the draft. So biggest stories, of course, names rising and falling up the draft board compared to where we saw in the mocks. Some big names that jumped out early. Arden Ejiofor, who went second overall, really started things off with a bang. A lot of people saw him early and were hoping that he would fall. He did not. To Miami's credit, they scooped him up immediately with that pick they got from the San Francisco trade last year. Vince Gresham, I know a couple of teams, particularly myself with the Browns and the Ravens, were looking at him in the middle of the first. He got snapped up by Carolina. Stanley Alvarez was mocked in the late first by a couple of teams, but really shot up the board, and New Orleans grabbed him. Marvin Thomas was a B overall in the initial draft book, and again, a real hidden gem there. Not so hidden from the Jets, who grabbed him 10 overall. Great pick there. And then Mike Penny, not expected to be the first tackle taken, but was taken in the middle of the first. Personally, very happy with that pick myself. And then some names who dropped a lot farther than we thought. Whit Wilson and Jamon Walters, both expected to be the first players at their position taken, and they were not. But great value in the end of the first, where they were taken by Philadelphia and the Chargers, respectively. Kenny Daniel was mocked as a top 5 pick by a lot of teams. He ended up falling all the way to 30th, was eventually taken. And then Sam Voth and Alex Hitchens, both players who initially showed up as A-plus overall players, but their combine grades didn't really show that out. I think Voth, his cover grades, and Hitchens' blocking grades were both like in the mid-6s. So they end up falling all the way out of the first. Again, still, I think great value to be had where they were taken, but mocked as top 10 and then fell to the top of the second round. So a lot of big storylines there to be addressed. A couple of teams had great accolades coming out of the draft. And again, thank you to Sage and Ace Wolf and K Green for providing draft grades. Really appreciate all of those. But some teams that got a lot of attention. First off, Carolina. I mean, their whole strategy was built on drafting well after the mega trade in 22, sending a lot of starters away to Denver and a couple other teams, and really stockpiling picks. They needed to bring that to fruition, and I think they really did. Third overall, Shazier, a 67 overall rookie, just an absolutely phenomenal find. Immediate starter there. We talked about Gresham also as a top 5 pick. But then even then, as you get to the lower rounds, Dupree, Jones, super high, 60-plus players to be found. And then even Hunter Familia in the 4th round, 100th overall pick, also a 60 overall. Swanson 58, great value in the 4th. So a lot of players are going to get immediate playing time. And especially for guys like Jones and Familia, I think that playing time is going to offset that potential. Some teams might have been scared off by that. But I think if you're getting playing time right from your first year, okay, maybe you gain, 4 points instead of 6. But if you're starting over 60, I think you're going to come out ahead. So great value from Carolina, stockpiling those picks and then really making the most of them. Houston, another team that benefited from that approach. A lot of media around Morand and where he was going to go, if he was going to go in the first, and then it looked like he would go number 1 overall to the Jets. Then the potential came out and back and forth. I still think he's a top 10 pick. I think Houston got a great player, and again, I think he's going to play early and often, and that's going to set them up for success. But then again, you go down the line, Massey, Hedges, Holly, Amichia, just high 50s guys with average or better potential through the second and the third rounds. Chris Ray's a 58 overall in the 5th, just immense value. And then taking a runner on a couple of super high potential guys in the 7th. So starting with low floor or high floor and then going with high ceiling at the end. I think just a great approach for Houston. They had a lot of needs, and I think they did a great job addressing those. Jacksonville, another team that impressed. They realized in 23 that they weren't going to compete at the level they expected, so they moved some veterans and got some high picks in return. So their original first ended up going with McCutcheon, a 59 A+, just an absolutely solid pick in the first round, and then grabbing Daniel, who we talked about. I think they got great value for him at the end of the first. Siciliani as well, a 62 overall, who, looking at their cornerback room, is probably going to play right away. Maybe at nickel, but he's going to get his snaps. And I think, again, that's going to offset that D+ potential. And then same thing going down. Trevor Wood, 57, a 56, another 57 in Jordan Hicks in the 4th round, just adding value upon value. It's definitely condensed into a couple of positions. They took 3 cornerbacks and 2 receivers in the first 4 rounds. But if you want players that can contribute right away, I think they did an excellent job of that. Miami, another one who drew a lot of positive attention. A Ejiofor, 2nd overall from that trade from last year. Huge acquisition. Their wide receiver room is stacked. They have already 2 very good starters in the prime of their careers, and then they added Javon McKay last year with a 2nd overall pick. He's a 62 now, and now Ejiofor is a 62 as a rookie. And then with Dean Hammonds throwing to them, that's a very, very good wide receiver room that's going to cause a lot of defenses a lot of problems. Hubbard is a great pick at the end of the first, and again, a lot of 60-plus guys, even all through the 2nd round. Terrell, Dixon, Portis, all fantastic value picks. And then going super high potential, Miles Bowles, 52, is low to start, but if you're getting a 5 or a 6 point bump in that first year with A+ potential, again that pick's gonna start paying dividends too as well. And Blake Smith is a very intriguing pick. I think good value there in the 5th as well. Not that Dean Hammonds is going anywhere, but it doesn't hurt to stock up on those quarterbacks, even on the 3rd day. So, yeah, 11 picks and just a ton of value there for Miami. And then going back to the NFC, Seattle as well. Clayton McGee, 62 overall. That's what you want in a top 10 pick, an immediate contributor. Edmonds, 58 A+. That's, first round value in the 2nd. Same with Mateo in the 4th, a 59 A player. If there's any team that just has the magic touch when it comes to linebackers, it's Seattle. They've already got Brandon Schroeder, who I think is going to set the player overall record probably in the next 2 years. He's an 84 overall for them. He's 26 years old, just absolutely phenomenal. They get Mateo in the 4th, who I think is first round caliber based just on those numbers. And then the absolute steal of the draft, in my opinion, Brashad Barnes, an inside linebacker, a 60 overall with above average potential in the 6th round. That's phenomenal. And they have Christian Carter playing in the interior of that linebacking core, who was their first rounder in 22. He is, I think, a 64 overall now. He's an A+ potential. So just an absolutely stunning linebacker room from Seattle. They still have a lot of needs on that team. Linebacker is not one of them. Great job there. And, of course, we can't mention Seattle without mentioning Chunky Nuno. Nuno, I don't care. Phenomenal name. Either way, phenomenal pick. So, like we said, a lot of fun that was had in the draft. Thank you to everyone who contributed. A lot of great performances there. Now we get to look forward. We have our first round of preseason games starting this week. Very exciting. And there are at least 6 games that we know of for sure that are having starters start their games. So these are going to be the teams putting out about what we expect them to see um, in the regular season, at least from a depth chart perspective. Certainly a lot of scheme work that's going to be going on in the first weeks of preseason. Um, but Washington at Cleveland, then you got Vegas at Philly. 2 great offenses are going to go at it. Carolina at Chicago, the Russell Barnes revenge game. Also, Carolina, just again with all those fantastic rookies, people are going to want to see them play, and I think play they will even early. All the way through to New Orleans at Denver, which might be a bit one-sided if the starters are playing and it's in Denver. But I think still a lot we can learn from that game. So in each of these videos, I want to take one game and deep dive into some scheme talk, since we have so much of the new scheme update to discuss, with 12 new offensive schemes, 6 new defensive schemes. So today I'm taking the Washington and Cleveland game. Washington's going to be running a pistol, which is going to give them a scheme bonus against Cleveland's 2-gap. And then Washington is running a 3-man spread. So Washington will have a lot of variability with that pistol. They can do multiple tight ends. They can do 3 wide receivers. They can do multiple in the backfield. So expect them to use a lot of variability and a lot of different looks to get a lot of different talent on the field. And then that's going to run against Cleveland's 2-gap, so that'll be 4 linebackers most of the time, but they can put 3 or 4 or 5 men on the line of scrimmage to add to the pressure and add to the run defense. So that's going to be an interesting game of chess to see how Washington lines up in those packages and how Cleveland either crowds the line of scrimmage or stays back and does more of a pass look. And both teams have talked. There's going to be a lot of blitzing involved, so both teams can test that out. So we'll see that as well. Again, Cleveland, when they've got 4 or 5 guys on the line, that's already going to be a lot of pressure. And then you're adding linebackers and maybe safeties to blitz on top of that. Could be a lot of pressure. We'll see how Washington handles that. Meanwhile, Cleveland's West Coast is going to take advantage of Rivera's high quarterback IQ. So we could see a lot of RPO there to try to take advantage of that. And also, even with that development, that offense is going to run through Juan Mora, who is a player I chose to highlight here. Super fast, very agile, great carrying score, an 81 overall in his 5th year. He's really been the workhorse for that offense the past couple of years and should continue to be so. So hopefully they get some balance with Rivera in there, but Mora certainly the feature back of that system. And then Washington's running 3-man spread, which means 3 down linemen, but fewer linebackers and usually a lot of defensive backs, 4, 5, or 6, depending on how they choose to play that. And then one player I wanted to feature on their team is Carl Ogle, who's an 85 overall star linebacker for them in the interior. Super fast with 95 speed, can go end to end and cover the entire field. Very strong and great tackling technique as well. So a lot of star power on that Washington defense, but Ogle's in particular really anchoring things in the middle of that defensive front 7. So yeah, interesting to watch these 2 schemes go head to head, and we'll see how that plays out in the first preseason game. So that is it for the inaugural SimNFL show. Thank you so much, everyone, for stopping by. Hoping to continue this series through the preseason and the regular season as well. So we'll cover past games, we'll cover more scheme stuff, statistical performances, pretty much anything related to the NFL, and maybe might even dip into the college sim as well. But for now, thank you, everyone, and good luck in week 1.